children. Today we are going to study about microorganisms, various forms and kinds. But before that, can I take the liberty of asking you all few questions? Yes. What are living organisms? Yes, plants, animals and human beings. Yes. Can you all tell me what is this? A leaf. How did you all say that this is a leaf? Because you could see it with your naked eye. But there are some organisms which are not visible with our naked eyes but can be seen only with the help of a microscope. Such organisms are termed as microorganisms. So today we are going to study about microorganisms, various forms and kinds. Shall we now look into the definition of a microorganism? Yes, microorganisms are defined as tiny living organisms which cannot be seen with our naked eye but can be seen with the help of a microscope. Clear with the definition? Yes. Now we'll learn more about microorganisms. Microorganisms are usually single-celled organisms, and study of microorganisms is called as microbiology. Microorganisms belong to both plant kingdom as well as animal kingdom. But there are certain microorganisms which are not visible with a compound microscope and they need a very powerful microscope to see them. Such organisms can be seen only with the help of an electron microscope. An electron microscope has the ability of magnifying the size of microorganisms to about 1 lakh times, and viruses can only be seen with the help of an electron microscope. Based on the complexity of their structure, the entire microorganisms are divided into 5 major groups. They are bacteria, fungi, algae, viruses and protozoan. Now let us study about each group of microorganisms in detail. Can you all tell me what you can see in my hand? Yes, it is curd. And can you all tell me what is this? Yes, it is contaminated water sample. And lastly, what do you see in my hand? This soil. There are lot of microorganisms present in these 3 samples, in curd, in contaminated water sample as well as soil. There are million microorganisms which are present in them, but they are not visible with our naked eye. They can only be seen with the help of a microscope. Are you all clear about what microorganisms are? Now let us look into the examples of microorganisms. As we discussed earlier, microorganisms are classified into 5 major groups. There are bacteria, fungi, viruses, protozoan and algae. Bacteria example is Salmonella typhi. This is the causative agent of the waterborne disease typhoid. Algae example is Chlamydomonas and fungi example is Aspergillus niger. Protozoan example is Entamoeba histolytica, and lastly examples of viruses are rhabdovirus and adenovirus. Rhabdovirus is the causative agent of the disease rabies, and adenovirus mostly causes respiratory tract infections. Are you all clear about the concept of microorganisms and their examples? Let us now study about each group of microorganisms in detail. Bacteria are found everywhere. They can live in all environmental conditions such as soil, water, air, plants and animals. Bacteria are ubiquitous in nature. That is, they are found everywhere. They are unicellular organisms and they lack nucleus. That is, they are prokaryotic organisms. They are found in different shapes and structures. Some of the bacteria are spiral in shape, some are comma in shape, some are round and some appear as rods. And bacteria could be pathogenic or non-pathogenic. There are several bacteria present in our body which do no harm to us and they reside as normal flora in our body. And there are some bacteria which are pathogenic in nature, that is, they have the ability to cause many diseases such as typhoid, cholera, etc. Example of a bacteria which we have studied earlier was Salmonella typhi. Now let us move to the next group of microorganisms, that is algae. Algae are found in water and moist soil. They are unicellular, colonial, filamentous and autotrophic. That is, they have the ability to prepare their own food. Most of the algae contain a pigment called as chlorophyll in them, which in turn helps them in the process of photosynthesis. Algae are divided into three major groups. The first group of algae is called as blue-green algae, the second group is called as brown algae and the third group is called as green algae. Can you all tell me the example of algae which we have just now discussed? Yes, Chlamydomonas is the example of an algae. Are you all clear about algae? Now let us move to the next group of microorganisms, which is viruses. Viruses are the smallest of all the microorganisms. As we have discussed earlier, they can only be seen with the help of an electron microscope, which has the ability to magnify their size to up to 1 lakh times. It is the electron microscope which actually helps us to visualize these viruses and then study about their structure. Viruses are of several types. They can live in the cells of either plants or animals or even human beings. There are certain viruses called as bacteriophages which have the ability to live in other group of microorganism, that is bacteria. An example of such type of virus is T2-phage. Some viruses look like rods and some have a head and a tail, and generally viruses are embedded in a coat-like structure. The outer coat of virus is made up of proteins. Within this outer coat, their genetic material, either DNA or RNA, is present. An example of virus which we have discussed earlier is adenovirus and rhabdovirus. And viruses only reproduce inside a living host. If they are not present inside a living host, they just look like salt crystals and cannot reproduce and cannot cause any disease. And viruses have the ability to cause diseases to human beings, to plants and animals. In human beings, viruses cause many diseases such as rabies, HIV, respiratory tract infections, measles, mumps, etc. All these diseases are caused by virus. The next group of microorganisms which we are going to study is protozoan. Protozoans are unicellular organisms. They are divided into three groups depending on how they move. The first group of protozoans move with the help of pseudopodium. Pseudo means false, podium means feet. that is, they move with the help of a false feet. And the next group of protozoan is move with the help of either cilia or flagella. And the third group of protozoan do not move, but they are attached to a rock or a plant in water. Can you all tell me the example of protozoans which we have learned earlier? Very good. Entamoeba histolytica is the example of a protozoan which has the ability of causing amoebiosis in human beings. Some protozoans live in water while some live in soil. And some protozoans also live in decaying bodies of either plants or animals. Till now, what are the four groups of microorganisms we just studied? Bacteria, algae, viruses and protozoan. Now, let us look into the last group of microorganisms, that is fungi. Fungi belong to plant kingdom. They are found in water and in soil, and they are also found in rotten fruits, vegetables, pickles, etc. They are also found as parasites in some plants, animals and human beings. Example of fungi is Aspergillus niger, and though fungi are microscopic in nature, there are certain group of fungi which we can see with our naked eye. Example, mushrooms. Are you all clear about the concept of microorganisms? Can I ask you all a few questions? What is the instrument by which we can see microorganisms? Yes, a microscope. How are viruses seen with our naked eye? Very good. Electron microscope. What is the magnification power of an electron microscope? Very good. It magnifies the size of viruses up to 1 lakh times. Can you all give me an example of bacteria which we have just studied? Very good. Salmonella typhi. Can you all tell me which disease this organism cause? Very good. Excellent. It causes waterborne disease called as typhoid in human beings. Can you all give me an example of a virus? Adenovirus and rhabdovirus. Adenovirus causes respiratory tract infections, whereas rhabdovirus causes rabies in human beings. Okay students, I hope the concept of microorganisms is clear to you all, and I would like you all to learn the structures of bacteria, fungi, virus, protozoan and algae and come for the next class.